Good evening and welcome to the council meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 24th day of January 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade. We have councillors Brian Burick, Carrie, Blosha, Byron, Zbirun, Brad Kushniryk, and Raymond McGregor with us this evening. We have interim CAO Pat Ellingson, and our videographer is here tonight as well, Jeremy Burick. We start tonight way up in section 1.2 of our agenda because we have a notice of absence. Be it resolved that notice of absence submitted by Councillor Terry Neely regarding the regular meeting of council held this 24th day of January 2023 shall be received. Is there a mover, please? Oh, sorry. Give me 2 seconds. Mr. Reeve did something wrong here. We haven't enabled voting yet, so let's go do that. In our wonderful system, as we prep the meeting, we don't enable resolutions to be voted on until such time as we actually start the meeting, just so we can't have anything done ahead, which, if I forget to do it before we start. Okay, a mover, please. Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? Resolution is carried. Moving to 2.0, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 24th day of January 2023 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, a seconder, please. Councillor McGregor. Discussion on this. Is there any additions or changes to the agenda we wish to make at this time? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. We do have a delegation tonight, but it's not scheduled until 7:15, so we'll leave that for a bit. We're going to go into the minutes, section 3.0. So in your screens, you can see the December 29th minutes. We have a resolution. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held December 29th, 2022 be adopted as presented. A mover, please. Councillor Blosha. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk. If you folks have had a moment to look at it, any discussion there, errors, omissions, things that we should do different on these minutes? I'll give you a moment if you guys can just sort of nod when you've seen them all for sure. I know some people didn't have a chance before the meeting to look, so I'll give you a minute if you need. Everybody need more time, or are we good?
Good.
Everybody's okay?
I think I was absent that meeting, correct?
Let's go find it. Yes, that's the one we held the last of the year. So
Right. There were just
Yeah,
three of
but
us here.
There's only 4 of us.
it said I made a committee report. I wouldn't have been able to make a committee report because I wasn't here.
that would be very tough for you to do.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's not right in there.
Okay. Oh, you know what? That wasn't voted on.
Oh, okay.
It was a proposed resolution because we just decided there's no point carrying the resolution, so it doesn't say carried there.
Oh, okay.
It was proposed, but was never done. We should probably will get.
And does anyone know why the final page is blocked out? You see? Can't read them.
Oh.
You can read all the other pages, but the final page is blocked right out.
What number?
On mine, I get 5 of 5.
You get
What's
to
your
4
last
of 5, and then
4 of
5 of 5 is blacked right out.
Mine's
My
good.
5 of 5 is fine.
Yeah,
My 505 is fine too.
Huh.
I'll try it again, because I can't read them. Yeah,
Use the paper version.
it's not the same.
Here's the paper. 5 of 5.
Thanks.
So we'll get administration to remove that committee reports resolution so it's not confusing, I think, when the minutes go to print. Although these may have gone already, but we'll get it over there. Just because it wasn't carried. Okay, anything further on this discussion of the minutes? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. We are going to jump to, we're for past financial items. There's some reasons why we're going past. We will go into general discussion, 9-1.
8-1?
I sure it's 9-1. I sure financials is 8-1.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna skip the
We'll
financials
skip
and go to
financials.
that.
There's a couple, the reason is there's a couple checks in there that we need to discuss.
Okay.
And some of these other things to see if we are going to approve them or not tonight. 9-1, cell phone boosters and two-way radios. So there's a couple quotes here, a couple things at play. So the new grader does not have a cell phone booster in it yet, so we need to purchase one for it. Both quotes contain a cell phone booster. The MERS quote is the least expensive for the cell phone booster. I believe it's $549 to $499, roughly, with some cents on there. So we're looking to purchase. Now, do we need one or two? Because I knew it was one, but I see the quote is for two.
I think we only need one.
Okay, my belief is it's just one. So we're looking for one cell phone booster. And then for radios, there's a quote there from Prairie Mobile and Russell. That's the new name for Ronald Communications. They're having a sale right now until the 27th. Buy one at regular price, get one at half price. We need a radio for the grader. We need one for the Zbirun shop. It doesn't have a radio. Staff expressed there's a couple radios that aren't working correctly. So my suggestion would be 6 because they're on sale, and it doesn't hurt to have 1 or 2 spares sitting around, especially when they're cheaper. So the first radio would be $500, the second one would be $250, the third would be $500, the fourth would be $250. So that would be what I recommend. I'll read the resolution, we'll move it, and then we can discuss it some more if you like. Be it resolved that we purchase 1 cell booster from MERS and 6 mobile radios, along with the antenna systems. I would suggest we wanted 4 antenna systems from Prairie Mobile as per the attached quote. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Burick. And someone that would like to second the resolution. Councillor Blosha. Discussion.
These are all handheld?
These are all mobile radios. So
It's for, but they're in a vehicle or,
yes,
okay.
yeah, so one for sure in the grader, one for sure in Zbirun shop.
That one, okay, the one in the Burick shop, it's still a mobile type
Still
unit.
mobile, yeah.
Okay.
If we, so it gets really technical. If we set it to 10 watts, we don't have to amend our license,
Okay,
which should be enough. If we set it to full power, we have to add it to the license.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
figure it out,
Yeah.
make it work.
Okay.
But they don't have one there, and that's been a problem, because if they're in the shop working, there's
Yeah.
no way to radio the guy
yeah,
in the
yeah,
shop.
yeah,
And then, I think there's also one of the trucks is missing one. There's a list of them.
Okay.
6 will be
yeah, that's good.
easily used up. Any further discussion? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Item number 9.2, this is somewhat for information. I don't have a resolution prepared, but you will decide if we want one or not. We have to insure our fire trucks, obviously. That's part of having fire trucks. But because they're fire trucks, they don't fall under standard MPI policies like a commercial vehicle or such would. So this is the invoice for fire trucks. It's $9,695. We're proposing to purchase this. Obviously, it's from MPI, but we're purchasing Benito, our MPI agent there, Snyder and Sons. For the most part, this is information, so you can see what these are. If you want to bring a resolution for it, we can. Normally, we just include this in our checks and fire it on through. So I just wanted you to see this so you knew how it worked, and the information is available if you're interested. Does anybody want a specific resolution on it, or are you okay with just including with the checks?
Just, is this for all the fire trucks or just for everything that we own?
Everything,
Okay.
both Benito and what's in Thunder West Hall.
Okay, okay,
And some of them, are as much as $1,000 a truck, some of them are much cheaper.
I just have to scroll down and just answer my own question.
Very good. Unit 15 is the brand new one in Benito. I think it's our most expensive truck. Where am I scrolling down to answer my own question? Isn't working, but it's in there someplace what it costs us. Unit 15 is $4,000, I think. Is that a premium? In any case, it's there.
Okay.
I don't intend to bring a resolution unless somebody wants one, so we're not going to. 9.3 needs some discussion. We met the Shared Services Committee plus some guests with the Shared Services Committee from Municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman. Many things were discussed. One of them was the Bozeman Fire Agreement. Up until now, we've had an agreement with the Bozeman Fire Department. We pay them $5,000 a year in exchange for them providing fire coverage to the municipality. A few years back, Bozeman was unable to necessarily mount their own response, not correct equipment necessarily, and having trouble finding enough firefighters. At that time, they went to an agreement with the Swan River Fire Department to provide automatic dispatch. So each time Bozeman received a call, Swan River went as well to make sure there was enough people there. As time went on, obviously Thunder West came online, Thunder West went offline. For a short time, Thunder West served the area. When Thunder West ceased operations, Bozeman wasn't able to begin serving the area because they couldn't respond. And Bozeman and Minitonas, for a variety of reasons, don't currently have an agreement with Swan River as of the end of the year. So Swan River no longer responds to the calls of the Bozeman Fire Department. Minitonas responds to the Bozeman area. So in talking to their councillors, they didn't feel they're able to provide us coverage. We have arranged for Swan River to cover that area as part of our standard agreement. What we have never done is end the agreement. Their council has discussed it. Normally there's a notice period. They've agreed to waive it because they don't want the agreement at this time. We're generally in agreement with that too because they can't provide the coverage. There's no point paying them the $5,000. So the resolution is here. I'll read it, and then if we want to massage it a bit, we can. Whereas the municipality of Minitonas Bozeman has indicated that they are not currently able to provide fire coverage to the municipality of Swan Valley West, and whereas the two parties had a fire protection agreement in place that required the Bozeman Fire Department to respond to fires in a portion of the municipality, and whereas representatives of both councils agreed to discontinue the agreement until such time as coverage can again be provided, be it resolved that the municipality of Swan Valley West cancel the fire protection agreement with the municipality of Minitonas Bozeman effective December 31st, 2022, and that the Swan River Fire Department will respond as the primary agency to the affected area. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Burick, a seconder. Councillor Kushniryk. Discussion. Anybody have questions, want to talk about this some more?
Are we going to be talking with Minitonas about this? Like,
Minitonas is in the midst of conversations with Swan River. My hope is that Minitonas and Swan River find a path to working together. Right now they're struggling a little bit, but they had a meeting last week, and after we met with Minitonas, you were here, you heard some of their struggles. I met with the mayor before they had their meeting with Minitonas Bozeman, and I kind of relayed some of those struggles and said, you know, here's their concerns, and maybe you're not listening when they say these concerns because you're so busy saying what your concerns are, so let me make sure you're hearing their concerns. He reported that after that the meeting had gone better, that they made some progress towards resolving those concerns. So I'm hopeful that shortly we'll see them entering an agreement similar to ours with Swan River.
because I know, like, it was discussed that maybe the three should get together and all sit down at the same table, eh?
I made that same offer. I made it to Minitonas Bozeman. I made that offer to the town as well, saying, you know, if you're having trouble, sometimes it's just as simple as you just need somebody else there to say, stop, you're both saying the same thing, let's just listen better. So I made the offer. They haven't taken us up on it, but I think I'm meeting with heads of council on Monday for lunch, so it'll probably come up then. We'll discuss it as the four heads of council, and just, I would love to see them working together on fire like everybody else is, so we'll see where it goes. They have some, I think it's public knowledge at this point that they gave the firefighters in Bozeman an ultimatum that they could either remain part of the Swan River Department or be part of the Bozeman Department, but not be part of both, and they were told they had to choose where the loyalties lie and make a decision. And the firefighters communicated their decision, and I don't know the next steps of their council. It's not for me to say what they're doing there, but certainly I wish them the best because they need to work it out. Any further discussion? I just want to be clear, they're okay with this. We're not canceling something. We've talked to them about this. This was agreed beforehand with them. If there's no other discussion, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. The time is 7:15, so we'll break for a moment from section 9, and we're going to go to section 5.1. We have a delegation this evening. Lois Borland is joining us. She is the president of the Swan Valley Historical Museum. I asked them to make a presentation tonight because we do grant them a substantial amount of money each year, And I wanted to hear from them directly as we go into budgeting process, how that's working out for them, what they're doing, if it's the right amount of money, much the same as we're looking to the rec center, we've looked to everybody to kind of speak to us about that to make sure we're all on the right track. So we invite you up to the table, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have a winter nose, so this is what happens. Well, good evening. Reeve, Gade, we agreed on that.
We had a long discussion about what she could call me. And she had a lot of ideas that weren't
Yeah.
appropriate.
I did discount several things he
Can we hear
suggested.
those and vote?
So Reeve, Gade, and councillors. My name is Lois Borland, and I'm here representing the Swan Valley Historical Museum. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. We, the museum, are a charitable organization located within the municipality of Swan Valley West. It's sometimes mistakenly thought that we are in the town, but we're not. We are in the municipality. We work entirely on the monies received from grants, donations, hall rentals, and entry fees. In the last few years, we've been able to expand the events at the Harvest Festival and have discussed adding something to the spring opening as well. We've seen the addition of Mistletoe Magic at Christmas time, which has been very well received by the public, as well as the winter warm-up has been added, which will see its inaugural event on February 3rd. And I do have tickets if anybody's still without. Purchased tickets are required to attend some of these events, but we've also endeavored to provide some events free of charge, so to make them available to everyone. The museum itself, which includes several buildings and many displays, requires constant care, repairs, and upgrading. My little tagline is always, everything at a museum is old. There's an endless list of tasks for our museum staff and volunteers, and new items for display arrive regularly, which need to be cataloged, and space for them needs to be found. This entails either revamping existing space or the construction of new display space. Even with the volunteer work of our board members and the help from others in the community, these tasks all cost money, which we rely on others to provide in some form or another. It's my understanding that the Municipality of Swan Valley West initiated some years ago to assist the museum by making an annual donation, which has been greatly appreciated. The amount of this donation was first decided to be more than enough money to cover the cost of our insurance. However, as things change, the cost of our insurance has increased, whereas the donation has remained the same. Our first request tonight is that the amount of the donation from Swan Valley West be increased to a level which will once again cover our insurance. We also have a second request for your consideration. Many of the events held at the museum, both by the museum board and by others renting our facilities, occur in the evenings, which, as you're aware, in this part of the world, for a great number of months of the year, means that we're arriving and departing in the dark. The entrance to the museum grounds from Highway 10 is very difficult to see in the dark. It approaches very quickly right after the bridge, and there's not really a turning lane there, and it's hard to make the turn safely if you're not really watching for it. Our request is for a street light to be situated at the approach to improve ease of locating the driveway. This will in turn improve safety and be more inviting to our guests. My voices. That's the end of my requests. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the museum, and I will endeavor to answer any questions that you have.
So I'll give a couple quick points of clarity, then we'll open up to questions. The municipality provides the insurance to the museum like we do to many nonprofits. So it's our insurance policy that covers that. And the museum does pay property taxes, which isn't the case with some things, but because the museum owns the property, it's not Swan Valley West property with a lease to them, they do pay taxes every year to us for being there. So we'll open up to council. Who would like to ask some questions?
You say the property taxes, I believe, when I was here before, we gave a grant to cover those taxes. Is that how it was?
The $6,000 is what's been given, and likely at one time it covered the taxes and the insurance, but the insurance is up to, I think it's around...
Over 8,300 last year, just the insurance.
83, okay, and your the taxes are what?
I believe
Six.
That I didn't look up.
I think they're less than 2,000, I'm not sure.
sign and the light help?
Well, the street light was looked at. That was a request that
I know it
came
has come up before.
And it was, I wanna say, in the ballpark of $15,000 to get it in there because they have to put the lines in and that's just,
Yeah.
that was a while back. I remember that request. And I remember it was about, I could be wrong, but I remember it was in the ballpark of around $15,000 just to get the light in there.
Would the sign and that light work? I mean, have a sign there saying museum or, next.
Dark, it's black though.
But I mean, with the light, if you're crossing the bridge, as soon as you cross the bridge, there's a sign that says, or before the bridge, there's a sign that says next, with left or right or whatever, museum. I mean, I'm not saying not to have a light, but
No,
I
I'm
mean,
trying to just visualize it, so.
And
don't
the
know.
safety concern, the light is the biggest
Biggest
thing,
thing,
because
yeah.
you see when people are leaving, they come there and then
yeah.
they can't see and the next people coming in can't see. There's been many near misses at that corner.
Have we investigated, there's so many LED solar options now for streetlights or anything like that?
What I can share with that is because it would be in the right of way of the highway, we have to comply with MIT rules, which is why the museum is unable to do it. Even if the museum, if money was no object, the museum is not allowed to place a streetlight there. Only the local authority, us, is allowed to put a streetlight in a MIT right of way. So even, irregardless of who pays for it, the municipality would have to say, yes, it can be there. And then, of course, we'd have to sort out who paid for it. But it can't show up there except for us saying we want it there. Any other questions?
As for the taxes, maybe this is completely ridiculous, but is it an option to have them, the municipality take over the land and lease it to them?
And then that would be a board decision for them. We certainly, I think, we've done that for other people. I don't imagine anyone here would be opposed to that, but obviously that's a question for the board to decide what they want to
Do
do.
we need to get a quote for this light or what process is?
We would have to go to Manitoba Hydro and ask for a quote. They'd provide a written estimate from our power advisor, Mr. Waschenfelder, and he would tell us exactly what it would be, and then it would come for us to decide if we were willing to pay for it or not. There'd be the install cost, there'd also be a monthly cost, obviously.
Yeah, and there was a quote years back,
But, yeah,
but it
but
would
we all know what
change
things
now.
done. I see it, get a quote and see what this is.
What if the light was on the museum property?
It doesn't reach.
Because some of those LED lights, they shine pretty good.
The MIT right-of-way there is fairly wide. It's not 66 feet, it's
Okay.
100.
I think
120, yeah, 100, yeah.
if there's a traffic thing there, I think we should,
There's an existing light there, and that existing light is on the property line.
Right.
So the light that's there that doesn't get there is as close as the museum can come.
Yeah, 100 feet would already take you past that curve, wouldn't it? Your way back.
It's fairly onerous because of it being a provincial trunk highway. But I think I'm hearing agreement, we could perhaps check the quote and see what it is. As to the rest of the request, I would assume we'll send that to budgeting, and we'll have some consideration on that.
Yep.
Any questions you'd like to ask us before you?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. I think
Thank you.
everybody here appreciates what the museum has been doing lately. It's so great to see growth out there. And even better if I don't have to volunteer.
We'll be sure you're there on the 3rd.
Yes.
I have a job for you.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We will return to section 9.4 of the agenda, AllNet contract information. This is for information. We're using AllNet. We finally got it working, obviously, but I know a lot of us are new here. This is the agreement we have in effect. This contract continues until June of 2024. So it's here for you so you can see what the cost is. And the answer to that is, escaping me at the moment, $4,000 a year. So irregardless of what we like of it or not like of it, we're in it until June of 2024. But it is worth $4,000 a year, so kind of keep that in mind. And certainly want to make sure we're using it lots for that, but that's more for information. 9.5 is also for information, ABC Fire. This is another vendor that came to us wondering why we haven't paid our bill. So they've provided here is a statement, and the statement provides for $20,000, of which 8,000 of it is grossly overdue. So it appears there was an invoice that was missed a while back. We were unable to find copies of it in the office, and that's been, to put it gently, a repeating problem. We're having trouble locating certain documents that existed before October 28th. In any case, the old invoice is here, and then the additional invoices are for the Manitoba Fire Department. Those are budgeted amounts in their normal operating budget. So it will be in the checks. I believe it's in the payables tonight. I just brought it out here separate so you could see those invoices in case there was any questions on it. It doesn't require a resolution because it goes into normal approval, but is there any discussion on it? Anybody want to talk about anything you see in here? Hearing nothing, we shall move on. That's fine. Section 9.6, charitable receipts for non-qualified donees. So this has come up before. There's a resolution to come on this, but we'll do some explanation first. You'll see there's a letter from the Canadian Revenue Agency addressed to the town of Swan River. The letter is dated 2018, and that's important. So you've heard discussion at this table before that the town was reluctant to be involved in things like the Community Foundation, doing pass-through granting. They've been refusing to issue charitable receipts for a lot of people, and in some cases Swan Valley West has been doing that instead. This is the actual opinion letter that was received by the town that explained why they should not be doing that. So CRA ruled that much of what the town had been proposing was pass-through funding. They call it a conduit. So essentially under the Income Tax Act, a conduit is where a charity like us issues a receipt for money that's come into the charity and then simply writes a check to somebody else for the same amount and passes it through. They note in the letter that's illegal under the Income Tax Act, and we're not allowed to do that. So there's a few issues that have come up here the last couple of years. Obviously there's been a lot of pass-through funding that would count as a conduit for the Thunderhill Ski Club, but certainly not their only ones. We've done some things with the Community Foundation as well. At the point at which this letter was written, those activities were likely to be ruled illegal on audit. There's additional issues with them in that some of those donations resulted in tangible benefits to the people making the donation. So for example, a business may have written a check to Swan Valley West, received a charitable receipt for it, but also received naming rights to an attraction at Thunderhill, which makes the entire donation inappropriate for charitable receipting. Those things have been done already, and certainly it's very tough to go back. You'll see we also have an email from the Community Foundation requesting assurance that we are still willing to do that, to be a conduit for additional funding. So I have news to share on that, and the news is that on June 23rd, 2022, the Canadian government saw fit to change the rules. So while it was illegal to be a conduit before that time, and we likely sinned, since that time it is now permissible for registered charities to issue a tax receipt and pass the money through without having control of the second body. Prior to that, on June 22nd, for the Thunderhill thing to have been legal, we would have had to be on their board and helping the direct with their project. As long as one of our members of council sat on the board and had input and was supervising what was going on, what we did was legal. Unfortunately, none of us were. That wasn't structured that way, so it likely was, we could call it a gray area, but it's probably pretty black and white. But on the 23rd of June, that changed. So what we're doing since then is fully legal. We're allowed to pass it through like we have been. As well, the Community Foundation, and I think they maybe don't know the rules have changed yet, because they're looking for us to still do it. They now don't have to have us in the middle. They can now grant directly to non-qualified donees if they want. So it's freed up them for what they can do, and I'm sure at some point their rules will catch up to that, and maybe they just haven't got there. The CRA has given draft guidance. There's a document out now that explains how to record that in our books so that it's legal and should it be audited by the CRA, we haven't done anything wrong. So the resolution tonight is to bring some clarity to that. I'll read the resolution and we can discuss it further. Whereas the Government of Canada amended the Income Tax Act on June 23rd, 2022 And the CRA posted draft guidance for registered charities on November 30th, 2022. And whereas numerous groups have approached Swan Valley West regarding our assistance as a charity and their non-qualified donee status, therefore be it resolved that Swan Valley West will follow the draft guidance for non-qualified donee donations until such time as final guidance is provided by the CRA to all charities, which would essentially tell our staff they're allowed to accept that money and we as a council will act as a conduit. Is there a mover for the resolution? Moved by Councillor Blosha. A seconder, please. Seconded by Councillor Zbirun. Discussion on the resolution. Questions, comments, changes? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That resolution is carried. We will move on to 9.7. In our shared services meeting with Minnetonka's Bozeman, they raised a concern. It's pretty apparent. I'll start with the resolution that we can discuss. Whereas the municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman transports aggregate over 1/2 mile of road in the municipality of Swan Valley West and is therefore required to pay the full aggregate levy for each yard of material. And whereas representatives from both councils feel it's in the best interest of our respective municipalities to vary our normal policy in this instance, therefore be it resolved that the municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman shall be exempt on an ongoing basis from paying the aggregate levy for travel on the portion of Road 224, which lies east of Provincial Trunk Highway 10. Is there a mover for that resolution? Councillor Burick. A seconder, please. Councillor Kushniryk. They indicated in discussion that they would, because they're right there with the grader anyway, if there's anything wrong with the road, they'll apply some gravel, they'll look after it. They further indicated that they had been taking an alternate route, which added several miles to their journey to avoid that 1/2 mile so as to not pay the levy, which just didn't seem smart for the environment. Why go to the way when people don't have to? They can come down Highway 10, they can take the 1/2 mile shortcut. I think this is a great idea, but anybody else have questions, comments? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 9.8, garbage at Richardson Pioneer. Let's start with the resolution, but we'll have some discussion too. Be it resolved that the municipality of Swan Valley West take over office refuse collection at the Richardson Pioneer site from the municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman, and that staff be directed to make arrangements for the transition. A mover, please. Councillor Burick, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. So what we're told has been happening for some time, the Council of Minnetonka's Bozeman has located a refuse dumpster at the Richardson Pioneer site. Their councillors indicated it was an agreement between their former Reeve and Richardson Pioneer to serve the site to provide pickup only for office garbage. So it's not, construction material, it's simply their office garbage. They had been doing that for some time, but they noted that the Richardson Pioneer site is not in their municipality, it's in ours. And they felt it was somewhat inappropriate that their municipality was paying the costs of providing that service to Richardson Pioneer. The question, of course, obviously they shouldn't be paying it, but how do we feel about it? Do we wish to simply pick that up as a service to them because they're such a large commercial entity in our municipality? And if we do that, then how do we explain the fact we don't do it for Spruce Products or such? So I throw that out there for council to have some discussion on what we should or shouldn't do
Who
there.
looks after Spruce Products?
They do it themselves.
Have they requested us to do something there?
They made the request to Minnetonka's Bozeman, and Minnetonka's Bozeman did it. But we're not entirely clear on why when it's not their municipality.
Like at Spruce site?
Oh no, Spruce Products has
Yeah.
never
Never
spoken with
approached us or anything?
No, I would assume though that, the point at which we're doing it for one large commercial, we should have a rule other than just it's Richardson.
Yeah.
If we're going to do it for businesses of a certain size or not for any, we should come up with some answer other than just we do it for this one. We should have a reason why we do it for
So
them.
what if we did it for Richardson and just didn't, and then if Spruce says, well, something, then we'd be prepared to do it for them too. But I mean, until they say
That's why we're having the discussion.
Yeah. Or do we just ask them?
We've never had garbage collection in the rural, so
We never
why would
have.
it start now?
This is
We,
a
they,
good
they,
valid
they
reason for
did,
some
they did
discussion.
it, they did it.
Well, that's true too. And
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't have garbage collection in the rural.
What I understand is
Yeah.
how this works is that there's a dumpster there, and they're paying to have the dumpster there, and they're also paying to have the dumpster emptied at the Minnetonka's landfill, which they're understandably not wishing to do anymore because it's not their municipality.
So this isn't recyclable stuff.
This is not, this is,
So Minnetonka's is paying for the dumpster to be there?
yes, and to empty it every time. And there's very interesting reasons why, but they're best described as interesting reasons. From what I understand, it was an agreement between their Reeve and Richardson Pioneer. No one really understands why their own municipality was doing it. We could certainly table this and send it for staff to talk to Richardson Pioneer and see
What's all involved?
yes, and what their view is on this.
But it's like Carrie says, we're not in the.
We don't even have
We're
the
not-
equipment to
we're not
go
in
do
that.
that.
Yeah, we're not in that.
No, we
And
would
then we
end up,
start there, where do we end?
this is,
We don't have the.
see my first comments, but we better have a rule other than just we do this one.
Yeah.
Because it better make
Yeah,
sense
we
why
better-
we do or
Yeah,
don't do
yeah,
it.
We
yeah,
better table it till we look into it.
yeah.
So we will table this tonight, we will ask staff to dig into that a little bit, see what's happening. We'll also communicate to Minnetonka's Bozeman that we haven't said yes, but we haven't said no. We're going to consider this a little further. If you thought that was fun, here comes 9-9. Well, let's have some fun. We'll read the resolution first and we'll discuss. Whereas the municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman has indicated that they are interested in entering into an agreement regarding the collection of refuse at the Bozeman transfer station from the residents of Swan Valley West. Therefore be resolved that Swan Valley West shall obtain quotas to locate a dumpster at the Bozeman transfer station and to service the dumpster on an as-needed basis. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Kushniryk, second by Councillor Burick. So what I can inform you on this is the Shared Services Committee from Minnetonka's Bozeman reports that they felt they were into a verbal agreement with the Municipality of Swan Valley West regarding fire protection services and landfill services. The agreement does not appear to have ever been written down. They felt there was an agreement by which we would be taking all of the garbage from the Bozeman transfer station and transporting it to the Bonito landfill, free of charge for them. Obviously that isn't the case, the agreement doesn't exist. So they point out that they are not interested in dealing with garbage at Bozeman for free for our residents, which makes sense. They currently service the transfer station with the dumpster system, and they have the dumpsters there. When it's full, it's hauled away to the Minnetonka's landfill. Their suggestion is that they would allow us to place a dumpster there. Their attendant would indicate if you're from Swan Valley West, you put your garbage in the Swan Valley West dumpster. If you're from Minnetonka's Bozeman, it goes in the Minnetonka's Bozeman dumpster. When ours was full, we would be responsible for transporting that garbage to a location of our choosing, which could be the Bonito landfill. But depending on the cost of mileage, we might find it more efficient to deposit it in the Swan River landfill. We would have to look into what the tipping fee was compared to the extra mileage to a landfill where it isn't a tipping fee. So this doesn't provide necessarily an agreement. It does provide, though, that we would have staff search out those quotes and find out a plan and come back to us. The current situation where our residents simply make use of their service they're paying for is untenable to Minnetonka's Bozeman. They are not willing to continue that for obvious reasons. They don't want to be paying for our residents to dispose of garbage at their facility. So something needs to happen there. I would suggest we start with the quotes because it's very difficult for us to make a decision on this without knowing the price until we see what happens. I think we would quote on both options, hauling it to Swan River, but also hauling to Bonito.
So this is new for us, right?
This will be new for us. At one time, we were into an agreement with the Bozeman landfill when it was a landfill, not a transfer station, but it's since become a transfer station only. So any garbage that goes there must be hauled to a landfill someplace. But there are a fair amount of our residents use it. anyone that's closer to it would use it because there's no tipping fee there, whereas if they came to Swan River instead, obviously they're paying a tipping fee, so a lot of people from the north end of the municipality would go to Bozeman.
So if we do this, somebody's not gonna come up to us and say, well, you're doing it for this out there, so you gotta come and do it for us too for a fee, or for nothing.
Historically, it's always been a landfill that we did have an agreement with, so I think we would get away with saying because it's been a landfill, this is how we provide that service. The alternative, of course, we could decide to not provide service there at all. Our residents wouldn't be allowed to take refuse to the Bozeman transfer site, and they would instead have to bring it to Swan River each time. Which would probably be,
I would think we're dealing with a regulated transfer station. We're not dealing with somebody made their depot that they want us to haul from. There's a pretty good line there.
Okay.
and this has an attendant like the landfill would, it's fenced off area, it's regulated.
There's a lot of people from Swan River haul to Bozeman.
Yes, because of the tipping fees.
Yeah.
Quite likely the gas they spend is more, but that's not how they see it.
So how much, like, we would have to pay per pound, or how does that?
I can tell you that when we had a transfer station running at Durban, we had Swan Valley Solutions doing it, and we paid a certain amount for every time they emptied the dumpster, plus a rental fee on the dumpster. So it depended how quickly it filled up. If it took 3 weeks to fill, obviously we paid every 3 weeks. If it was a slower time and it didn't fill for a month, Minitoba's Bozeman indicated their attendant would watch the dumpster and would call our service provider to say it's full, you need to come for it. So we wouldn't have to go check on it, they would provide that service.
But we would pay per pound if we dump it in Swan.
In
Yeah.
Swan, we would pay
And
per
we
pound.
wouldn't pay if we hauled it.
Yeah, I understand, but I thought, well, maybe it was full and they waited, and that's, you know, to watch, I mean, they gotta pay their attendants to watch ours like theirs too, but do they want anything for that, or?
No, they say their attendant's there anyway, so
Okay.
they don't want necessarily
Okay.
contribution, they don't want our garbage in their dumpster,
Yeah,
which is fair.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Any other discussion? If not, we'll vote on this, we'll call the question, those in favor? It's carried. We will move to section 10. 10.1 Municipal Education Sessions. This is for information, but also the question if anyone wishes to attend, so we can approve your attendance. This is sent to us by Municipal Affairs. The one of interest would likely be Friday, February 17th in Brandon. So if you wish to attend, council would of course pay your registration fee plus your mileage. And giving the timelines of it, I'm sure you would need to stay in a hotel one night, perhaps two. There's also virtual sessions available if you wanted to attend virtually, that
The
can be done
system
as
has
well.
detected that a few lines are still connected to the conference and will attempt to disconnect them. If you wish to remain in the conference, please press *1. 15.
So there's options there. Is anybody interested in attending this? It's probably more to newly elected people, but certainly it could be a refresher to anyone that's been here for a while as well. The registration deadline is coming fairly soon. If you were to change your mind and decide you wanted to attend, please contact our interim CAO as soon as you can, so we can make those arrangements. Even if we had to pass a resolution at a later time, we could still make that work for you. So it is an option. 10.2, Bell MTS mapping. You've been provided the 911 ESN map and fire map. These are updates from the Bell dispatch system. These reflect the changes to the fact that Bozeman Fire will no longer be responding to the north end of the municipality. It provides ESN District 2268, which is the rural area surrounding Swan River, and 2270, which is the rural area surrounding the Bonito Hall. The second map shows that 2270 will be responded to from Bonito, 2268 will have response from Swan River, 2242, the town of Swan River, obviously is Swan River. Those maps are for information. Because Bozeman is not able to respond, we have already indicated to Bell MTS that those maps are good as is. 10.3. We have a resolution here. Be it resolved that the Council of Swan Valley West accept the resignations of Stan Anderson, Jared Kerlick, Deborah Schaefer, and Brent Gray. Is there a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Blosha, a seconder please. Seconded by Councillor McGregor. Discussion here, obviously if you wanted to ask the individual reasons for this, we'll do that in camera. But any discussion that does not involve personnel matters on this? No. We don't really, it would be hard for us to say, no, you're not allowed to resign. So this is more of a formality, is why we're just doing it open council, rather than being in camera and coming out and passing it later, so it's done. With no discussion, is there, I guess we'll call a question, sorry. Those in favor? That is carried. 10.4, Minnetonka's Bozeman Road Agreement. You'll find attached a road agreement from the Municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman. This is effective until
December 31st, 24.
24. So we've got 2 years left in this. I know there's some questions from some of the council members about how this works. So the agreement's been dug up. It's provided here for information. The neat part about AllNet is that if you need this later, you can just search it up and pull it up. So if anyone's looking again for it in 6 months, it's easily available, but the document's there. When we met with their committee, they indicated this is working well, and they would likely look to renew it at that future date anyway, because it's been going well. 10.5, the G4 meeting is coming up very soon. That meeting is on February the 6th. It's in Swan River. We must provide to the town of Swan River, preferably now, an indication of how many people are going. Who will be attending the G4 meeting this time around? I see 1, 2. This is for, they have to order enough supper, is the reason for this. You're all, if you change your mind later and come, you're always welcome to come, but don't expect there to be any food for you.
This is an all-day deal?
No, that's just an evening.
Yeah, sorry, and
It's
I
just
should
an
go
evening.
through that for new people.
Yes.
G4 is supper and a meeting. So generally supper's around 6 o'clock. All 4 councils have a meal together. There's a time of fellowship and teasing each other usually. And then when that wraps up, there's a formalized agenda that we run through as the 4 councils. It isn't a council meeting. There's no binding resolutions, but it provides for discussion on interesting topics. One of them is economic development this time. There's a few others on the agenda. I think it was circulated already amongst people. If it hasn't been, it'll be out soon. It's certainly, if you can make it, it's very good to go to, because it gives you a chance to meet those other councillors, where sometimes we just don't see them very often. It's always nice to make those relationships with other members. And also the discussion's very good, because you get the input of the whole valley on topics that matter to the whole valley.
What's the date again?
February 6th, it's a Monday.
And each municipality takes a turn hosting. Just so,
Yeah, at some point we'll be hosting it.
yeah.
And then your attendance will be almost mandatory.
Yeah. And was it held at the War Veteran Hall?
It's at Veterans Hall. So I've seen 2 so far. I'm going to attend as well. I assume CAO Ellingson will attend. So that's 4 of us. Let's call it 5, assuming that
Terry
Councillor
usually-
Neely,
Terry
I'm sure
usually
he'll
does.
attend. And if not, we'll just have an extra meal there. And Councillor Zbirun will make that 6. And the other 2 folks, if you change your mind, please come. But and it's usually buffet style, so you might still get food.
We'll share.
Yeah, there may not be a plate to put it on. But we'll still make it work for you.
So we're saying 6?
We're saying 6. 10.6, Ombudsman concerns. You're gonna find this one funny, I did. I received a call yesterday from the Ombudsman's office. And this is such a change, because so many times the Ombudsman has called Swan Valley West accusing us of holding back information or not sharing information or not answering FIPA requests and generally being really hard to deal with. This time they called with concerns that we're oversharing information, that we've actually been providing too much information to the public. Being that I'm the Reeve, apparently that's my problem. So I spoke to them for a while and we discussed their concerns. Their concerns centered around specifically the resignation letters we just looked at. Some of those letters included the people's personal telephone number and mailing address, which the Ombudsman has asked we do not publish as part of our agenda telephone numbers and mailing addresses for people, probably not their email addresses either, unless it's routinely provided. So they also discussed the bylaw report, which is in here, but because it's routinely provided and always has it on it anyway, that's seen as fine. But one of's, we should censor that information. So you'll see in future agendas If information is coming out that has someone's personal home address, home phone number, home email address, it will likely be blocked out in the agenda so you can't read it. You'll still see their name, and then if you need that particular personal information, there's some reason for you to have it, it would be provided in camera to you. But for the most part, council would never need to phone somebody at home from one of those letters anyway. So that was their concern. 10.7, letters of support requests. I need some direction from council on this. I've attached the Benito Legion support letter. This is ready for signature tonight. We receive throughout the year numerous requests for groups that wish to have our support. One of those requests was received recently from the Benito Legion Ladies Auxiliary. They're applying for the Building Sustainable Communities grant, and they wish to show that they have municipal support. It's a requirement of the grant that they have support. So I've written a letter here to them saying that we certainly support their efforts. What my question to council is, are you comfortable when a request like that comes that I simply respond to it unless I see some sort of issue that council may want to discuss? Because most of these are cut and dried. We're always going to say yes. If you want, I can bring each of them to council for us to talk about. If you don't want, unless I see something I think, oh gosh, it's the Ku Klux Klan asking for a letter of support, we better talk about this. I just need to know what your direction is for how far I should go before I come to say, is this okay?
I'd say you can go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Maybe just on the meeting, maybe just put it on the
Yeah, just put
agenda.
on, noted that
copy
it
of-
was sent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if it's agreeable, what we do, because this one, the deadline kind of got away on us, they had to submit the grant application, and now they're gonna send the letter separately. So if it's agreeable, then what I'll do is we'll write them, we'll send them, and we'll include a copy on the next resolution so you can see what was sent.
And sometimes those letters are required for a grant to be there before even our meeting.
Yes.
And if we haven't passed it, they're getting a grant, go ahead.
Okay, so that's the direction I'll take. If we ever want to change that, please bring it up at a meeting and we'll make the change to whatever the group wishes to be. We can go to 11. I believe all of this we can do fairly easily.
So you're not going back up to the,
I am after 11.2.
okay.
But 11.2 is where we need to get through before we can go to financials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 11.1, revised organizational chart. This is an unfinished business because this came up at a previous meeting, and we provided staff direction to make a new chart and bring it to us, so it has been made. You'll notice in the chart that's provided tonight, the lead hand rural public works and lead hand urban public works both report to the chief administrative officer. In the previous flow chart, lead hand urban reported to lead hand rural and did not report to the chief administrative officer. So their chain of command involved going through the rural admin before it went to the CAO. So essentially everything went to the rural public works and they had to split some off. It seemed a little silly. They both couldn't talk to the CAO. So that's what's brought forward. Be it resolved that the organizational chart of the Municipality of Swan Valley West be updated as attached to provide that the urban lead hand reports to the chief administrative officer. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, beat you to it. We'll put you in as a seconder, Councillor Burick. Any discussion on that resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 11.2, we're going to start with this in open session. There is a possibility we may have to move this to in camera. If we do, the financials will have to go after the in-camera session, which is not a problem. I just point that out that that's what will happen. At a previous meeting, we looked at the bylaw enforcement report for November and December. There was a confusion with staff because the reports were so incredibly similar. They thought it was actually a duplicate report, and so they thought it was only the November report and 2 copies had been provided. So they created only the November check, not a November and December check. We then sent out the November check, and there were some concerns expressed about why exactly there was no December payment. So that we discussed a little bit at council the eerie similarities in the 2 reports and the number of hours used. So staff did take it upon themselves to ask Mr. Rose if he could provide a little clarification on what exactly happened each day that it said check emails, file papers. Because to the knowledge of staff, there were no emails or papers filed in those 2 months. And so the clarification we received was my invoices look the same as those were the hours and jobs I was directed to work by the previous interim CAO. I was told not to do any enforcements without a written complaint, and to my knowledge, none came into the office. I was also not asked to attend any council meetings. I do expect to be paid my final month of my contract by the end of January at the latest, or I will take whatever legal means necessary to collect what is owed plus associated costs. Which would be very hard to not think that that is a threat to sue us. I would think that probably is a threat to sue us. So we're starting here. We do have a check written for this tonight. It's in the checklist, but some members of council expressed they would like to discuss this beforehand. This is a contractor. This is not an employee, which is why we are not in camera so far as yet. If council was to decide that we wish to go to court over this, we would need to move the remainder of the discussion in camera to discuss our possible legal defense as an in-camera topic. If council's opinion is that we're going to pay this bill and be done with it, we can remain an open council. So I'd like some discussion from the table, what you'd like to do, and then if we're aiming towards, gee, we want to go to court and have a fight, we're going to stop and go in camera. If we're leaning towards it's $1,200, we're going to pay the bill and be done with it, we'll stay here and we'll go to the checks and approve it. Who wants to go first?
Do we have a copy of a contract?
Yes. The contract provides that they can work up to 40 hours per month without the approval of council for overtime. Anything over 40 hours requires approval. The contract does not guarantee 40 hours. It says work up to 40 hours a month.
And that work isn't described, that work could be unsupervised, do as you wish.
Yes. It would probably be difficult to say that this wasn't in the spirit of the contract. The contract kind of left it open-ended like that, that you can work up to 40 hours a month at things.
Time and money justifies not paying it, or?
If we were to decide we wanted to dispute this, I would suggest we would end up in small claims court with Mr. Rose. Being that you all love me so much, I'm sure you would appoint me to go to small claims court to defend the claim. At which point you would be paying me hourly as a Reeve to go there. It would be a couple hours. If we lost, instead of paying $1,200, we'd probably be paying $1,600 after some court costs. If we won, conceivably you could not pay the bill. I don't know that I would recommend us putting a bunch of time and energy into fighting someone in court over $1,200 when we had a contract with them that was signed. We would have to say theft of time. And I don't know that we could prove that. And I don't know that we're interested in going down that path. But if you guys feel strongly about it, we can discuss that further in camera. If you're okay with just paying the bill, we did not renew this contract. So this...
Your description of the contract sounds so gray that
I think the next time we write up a contract, it should be a little bit more.
There's probably a lesson to council there.
Yeah.
And I think in camera, we're gonna hear a couple more issues where it's good to write down exactly what we mean, not write down half of what we mean and leave the rest open-ended. So,
Because like, can we discuss this bill like now or no?
you can discuss the bill all you want, just if you're wanting to go to court, we have to stop and go on camera. But you can discuss anything you see here.
There's 2 days, the 2 days are 2 days apart, and they've got 8 hours, like, in 8 hours.
But my interpretation of the contract is he doesn't have to justify anything up to 40 hours,
So I mean, you can just make a bill out for 40 hours.
pretty
that's it.
much. That's what it sounds like.
That's what happened in November, we paid it.
I think we're kind of hooped
In the grand scheme of things, it sounds like a $1,200 lesson learned.
Yes,
Yeah,
but like I say, for the next
because I mean, it's, you say it's 2 hours of your time, paying you or whatever, but I mean, that's 2 hours you could have been doing something else too, you know?
While I love attending small claims court, I like to win if I go to court, and I can't tell you there's a reasonable chance of winning
I
this.
say we pay the bill and move on.
Yeah, me too.
And like a lot of these here, 4 of them I think are on Saturdays. Would you be working on Saturdays?
Just random dates.
Let's say it's a lesson that you will have learned, and the next time we write up a contract, it'll be a little bit more.
So we will move on then.
Yeah.
11.3 sale of airport property. This has come up a couple times. There's new information again, so here we are back to it. When we were first elected, we had an offer to purchase that had come to the previous council. They didn't really know why they had it. We've researched that. It was an unsolicited offer to purchase airport property, which we weren't interested likely in selling. That was communicated to the council for the purchaser. They have come back again as recently as yesterday, again wanting to purchase the property. This time they've come to the town of Swan River and the municipality of Swan Valley West because we have joint interest in the property. Technically we own it, but there's a caveat filed on the property that 50% of the interest is the town of Swan River. So we both have to agree before anything can happen. In the email attached, you'll see the town of Swan River is not willing to sell any portion thereof. The municipality of Swan Valley West previously indicated that as well. We have reiterated that today, that we are not interested in selling any portion of the airport. So that has been communicated to the representatives for the purchaser. But as far as we know, it was an unsolicited offer. We don't believe there was ever, with an election change, as much change as we've had, we just want to make sure we didn't have a deal that we were supposed to be honoring. It does not appear anything like that existed.
No, but I told you that before, because it came to the council table right before the election. And I told you this has to be looked at because it was not agreed to. So it wasn't new.
No, there's no indication there's anything old with it.
No.
11.4 winter clothing. I suggest we move this to in camera.
Agreed.
It's a union matter and it very quickly treads into HR matters. So we're going to send 11.4 to in camera. Let us return now that we are through 11 to 8.1 financial items. Tonight there's 3 batches of checks being presented. You may recall we had a little bit of a trouble last meeting with check numbers. Those have been resolved. The correct numbers are here. The checks were all correct at that time. We had seen them, but not everything was numbered correctly. That's been fixed. So you have 3 batches of checks. The resolution provides for all 3. I'm going to read the resolution, then we can spend as much time as you like examining checks. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18464 to check 18517 totaling $123,819.44, and check 18518 to check 18560 in the amount of $544,329.80. So while there's 2 listed there, they're in 3 batches. I'm mover for the resolution. It's moved by Councillor Kushniryk. A seconder, please. Councillor McGregor. There you are. Discussion. I have checks with invoices for the most recent ones. Some of these obviously are the ones we looked at before. I don't have those ones with me because we ran through them before.
I just put that on top, so
Okay.
sorry.
So if we were wondering what our museum grant, it's in there.
It's $6,000
Yeah.
is what it's been. And that's the 2022 grant.
Yeah.
That's one of the checks we have signed already because council gave us direction to sign them, but the numbers weren't right, so we brought it back to approve tonight. Other notable checks, there's a $3,000 check for surveying in the Benito Cemetery. They've been working there and have figured out the location of additional grave sites because the existing plots were getting full and they needed some additional ones, so that's what that's about. Most of the rest of these are pretty straightforward. I see the Saturday treat bags have made it into here finally. There's a fine amount here. It's a charge, it's not exactly a fine. Minister of Finance for $3,105.39. This is related to Sarah Lake Road, Reels Hill. This is the cost of the trees we cut down. Resources provided us a timber rights something order that charged us for trespassing on their land and cutting trees without a permit. So this is the cost of the timber we used up. It has to be paid before we can get a permit for continuing there, which is why we're paying it now. Tomorrow, by the way, is the court date. I appear in King's Bench Court tomorrow on behalf of the municipality to ask for forgiveness on the fines related to Reels Hill. There's a check here for the Swan Lake Watershed Conservation District. It's $9,631.56. The Watershed District operates on a different fiscal year than the municipality. Their end of the year is March 31st. Ours is December 31st. So the annual levy each year, we pay the vast majority of it in August, but we pay the leftovers after the 1st of January because in our books, that portion needs to be paid in the next year. So this is the leftover. The total amount for the entire year, which is just about to end, was $38,526.25, which represents, I believe it's a 1-to-3 matching formula for what it costs to run the Watershed District, which means when they perform work in our area and we benefit from that, we get quite a substantial amount of funding from outside of our municipality to help with that work, so it's a very good deal. That, I think, ends the ones I found interesting, but does anyone else have questions on checks?
You got check 18498? Is that a number or is that?
498. Let's find it here. 18498, the Northview service check?
Yeah, what did they do to it?
So that's Ford, that is fire truck, is it not? Or is it the actual LED truck?
Benito truck.
Benito truck.
Benito truck.
Do you know what they did to it? I don't have that invoice with me. That's one of the previous ones.
Oh, it's not attached.
I
Oh,
think
it's not in
It's
here?
not dispatch, I think that was last. Oh, is it
Prior.
Yeah, prior
Oh.
was.
You know, I looked at it, but I don't remember to tell you, sorry.
If you like, we can dig it up and we'll get you that.
No, I was just curious,
information.
like, did they put a new engine in it or what? I don't.
No.
I think they were doing some work that was required in order to make it past safety.
Any other questions?
If you want that information, Brian.
No, that's okay. It was just that amount and I was just wondering what they did to it. No, that's okay.
If we get a chance, we'll get you a copy of it outside of tonight, just so you can see it. It'll be easy to find. Any other questions on checks? If you're still looking, great. If you're done looking, just let me know so we can move on. We're
Yep.
not sitting here all night.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. We move to section 8.2, payroll checks. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 4429-4440, the amount of $19,536.85. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, a seconder, please. Councillor Zbirun. We will have those payroll amounts. If you're interested in camera, you can see who was paid what. Otherwise, we won't have that information in the open. Any other questions or discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We move to section 8.3, fire persons, which I thought was very progressive of us. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves payment of the fire person's wages check number 18561-18591 in the amount of $10,337.52. That's you moving it, right?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
it wasn't a question.
Very good. Seconded, please. Let's go Councillor McGregor. He usually doesn't get his hand up very quick.
Yeah, he does, but he's getting better.
He is. Discussion on that. This is both Benito and Thunder West. For the second half of the year, we pay fire department wages twice a year, about 6 months in and at the end of 12 months. Any further discussion? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Section 841. This is part of Budget 2023 as we work through that process. Attached here you'll find the LED service plan from 2022. You'll also find the LED service plan proposed by the committee for 2023. Last night we held an information meeting in Benito. This plan was discussed. 50 people attended and they were fairly on board with it, but obviously it's the decision of council and the LED committee. So the LED committee has met. Last week was their regular meeting. They presented us as a service plan. We have a couple options as council. We can either approve their service plan or we can send it back to them and say this isn't acceptable to us. Obviously, if we send it back, we would send some notes along with what we wanted to see changed, and we'd probably have a meeting and have some discussion. If we're into the approving it mode, we can approve that as it's written. In the past years, it's gone both ways. Sometimes it's approved as it's written the first time, sometimes council sends it back. So the resolution be it resolved that the 2023 service plan, as provided by the LED of Benito, be approved. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, a seconder, please. Councillor Burick. Is there discussion we would like to have on this service plan? Councillor Blosha, do you want to start? I think you're nodding there.
Yeah. Well, I see no wages, no equipment. And I'd kind of like to know the impact on the rural residents.
So let's
Because
have,
that's like less than half of what the budget used to be.
let's have Councillor Kushniryk answer the first half of your question.
Sure.
Because he's on that committee. And then I can probably chime in on the second part of the impacts.
So for wages and equipment, the LED can have neither of the two. We aren't in control of any. The municipality provides those things. We pay for them at large already throughout the entire municipality. So if we're taxed at large, we can be taxed within the LED for something you are receiving everywhere. So that's the basic short version.
Do you want a longer version?
No, but the grass cutting in the town is a lot different than the grass cutting in the municipality. Like, if you want your boulevards and that cut, that's what that machine will do, but the LED of Benito needs smaller mowers. Correct?
There are smaller mowers going, but we also are paying for that at-large service that we aren't receiving within, right?
But the large portion, tell us the large portion that Benito pays. About 3 point,
The exact same amount.
so
that we're-
rural picks up about 96%. A
Well,
little more, actually.
if you take away your boundaries, you and I would pay the same amount.
But the boundaries are there.
But the boundaries are there, so
Not
that we
for at-large
don't,
services.
we don't pay the same amount.
The boundary does not exist for at-large, that's why it's called at-large.
Like, I'm not saying that I don't agree with some of the things that are here, but there's just some extra things that should be in there.
It looks like the village doesn't have confidence in itself to provide for its own services.
So just-
It's looking for everybody else to provide their service for them.
So just
Is
a
what-
note, there is no village and there is no
Yes,
day.
yes, okay. So,
It's Swan Valley West.
let me rephrase, it looks like the LED doesn't have confidence in itself to provide its service for its people.
It was
And-
mandated, sorry.
And
Finish, please.
it's not like I've got anything against this or not. Like at the meeting last night, you said, well, then, there's plans or grants or whatever that were taken away from the bill. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's put those back. Like, whatever Benito is supposed to have before and that was taken away, let's give it back to them. But let's at least show the rest of the municipality that Benito is willing to take care of itself. A little bit, at least, a little bit.
So I can advise from a technical aspect, it would be in contravention of the act for us to give those back. Those must come to Swan Valley West because there is no Benito for them to go to.
Yes, but they still have an LED though.
An LED is not a government. It's only a committee. It's a purchasing committee. They can purchase additional services, but we are not allowed to give them, say for example, the provincial operating grant. There's no one to give it to.
So what is their role? Their role is to come and bring this for us to decide whether we want it or not, right? Or we can okay it.
If you step outside of the municipal bounds for a moment, it would be like seen as a purchasing group. So if we had a group of residents, say for example on Potton Drive, that got together and decided they all wished to have their garbage picked up, they could come up with that together and they could have a little residents association and they could all pay into a pot to have the garbage picked up. That would be nothing to do with us. They could choose to have us pick it up, they could have somebody else do it up, whatever. If they wanted us to pick it up as a council, we would say to pick up the garbage there is going to cost you this many of dollars per year. If you want to pay that, fine. If you don't want to pay it, fine. We're required to provide services to our entire municipality. As of 2023, differential mill rates are not allowed without permission of the province. We have no permission for a differential mill rate. So we must charge the same at-large fee to every resident of our municipality. And we must provide the same services to every resident of the municipality, which we endeavor to do. Things like clearing the snow, maintaining the roads, etc. If the LUD committee, which is essentially that purchasing committee, it's a group of all of the people in Benito, back in history decided there would be an LUD. They also decided to continue the LUD. There was an opportunity to end it, but they didn't. They kept it. If they wish additional services, they must pay for them themselves. So the first one, garbage. We provide garbage opportunity to all of our residents. Their requirement is to bring their garbage to one of our sites that we designate, be it the Bozeman Transfer Station, the Swan River Landfill, or the Benito Landfill. That's all we provide. We don't go and pick up the garbage, as we were discussing earlier. If the LUD wishes the garbage picked up, they must pay whatever we say the cost is to pick up the garbage and take it to the landfill where it would normally have been. So the $40,000 they've indicated there is for essentially the labor, the fuel, the maintenance on the vehicle, as an all-inclusive price to have the garbage picked up. That $40,000 is then billed to the people in the LUD of Benito, and there's no choice. They have to pay it. They can't, one person can't say, oh, I don't want garbage. It's provided to all, because in that area we provide a higher level of service and they pay for the privilege. The cost of the LUD committee, obviously, it only benefits Benito, so that cost has to be paid there. If you look at things like snow clearing, we provide snow clearing to the entire municipality, including other urban areas like Zbirun, Kenville, and the Pot and Drive area. I call it Pot and Drive, there's a lot of streets there, but I'm referring to basically the golf course area where there's a built-up urban area. And so, because we provide that to everyone, even if the LUD committee didn't exist and there was no additional charge to Benito, we would still have to provide snow clearing to Benito. We wouldn't necessarily provide snow clearing of sidewalks because we don't do that anywhere else, which is why you see a sidewalk fee in here. The rec center utility is a bit of a holdover. I'm not necessarily a big fan of it being there because the rec center to me is something that benefits the entire municipality. We're paying the insurance at large, we're paying that additional grant amount at large. I don't know why we would say the water for the rink should only be paid for by Benito instead of being paid for everybody, but it's not my role to second guess the LUD committee. They put this forward. We either need to accept it or send it back. They've also provided for $8,000 general reserve. As we heard last night, they have about $400,000 in reserve now. So they wanted to grow that by an additional $8,000 this year, and they have the ability to do that and have those reserves. As to the impact, last night at the presentation, we looked at an average $100,000 assessment. So the impact to a $100,000 assessment for rural is less than $15 for the changes that were proposed by the LUD committee. There was a presentation some time ago from Municipal Services. They came out and looked at this. The LUD committee had them out. They spoke to a previous council. They looked at what was being done, and their recommendation was that changes be made. And their recommendation was essentially very similar to the changes that are proposed by the LUD committee this year. In the past, the LUD has been, right or wrong, and personally I would argue wrong, trying to operate like the village of Benito. They've been trying to control everything, trying to manage the staff. They would hold meetings where they discuss what staff should be told and what they should do and how they should do it, which was probably well beyond the purpose of the LUD committee. There is no village of Benito, and they have, and this will sound horrible, they have no right. There is no separate council in Benito. We are the Council of Benito. Benito is part of Swan Valley West. It's an unincorporated entity within our confines, the same as Zbirun and Kenville, the same as any other area. It is us. And it was being run like it was a completely separate thing. We even saw that to our union contract that we'll discuss later, where we had staff indicated they could only work in Benito. Staff indicated they could never work in Benito. which doesn't make a lot of sense because Benito isn't there. If you go into the act and into all of the policies on LUDs, the new proposal complies with those policies, the old one did not. The old one was trying essentially to run it as a separate place, which isn't what's supposed to happen. I'm sure there's many more people wish to be next, so don't let me talk all night. Who wants to have more comments or discussion? Councillor Zbirun, you want to continue?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. The last couple of days before our meeting yesterday, I picked out, I phoned people east of Benito, I phoned people south, just not to, I just wanted their, what they thought,
Which you should do.
what they thought.
That's exactly what councillors should do.
Because I told them, I says, do you want me to argue this, or do you want me to just shut up in the chair and twiddle my thumbs? They said, the worst I got was north, up by, I don't know where Neil Watkins lives, and up in that country.
Big Woody.
Big Woody area, was that they should at least pay for part of their services, because they realize the community is getting smaller, but they should, everybody else said no. And I thought that we were a councillor that listened to everybody, that would at least sit down and negotiate for the best of the whole valley, not just for Benito. And this, I think, is what we're gonna, is, you know, it sounds like, well, you know, he started it, you know, like the councillor before us were all for the rural, and now we're all for the urban, and I think all we're doing is just putting a big wedge in it, and for us to do something that's gonna last longer than the 4 years that we're here, we need to talk to both sides and come up with agreement that's good for both sides. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that, oh, we gotta take everything away from Benito, or Benito has to pay for everything, but I think they gotta at least show some that they are willing to at least pay for some of their services, other than just the garbage.
So I just want to clarify, you said they said no. Are you saying they said no to?
That they didn't want to pay for any of this, on any of the services.
I just want to make sure we're clear what the no meant.
Yeah. And like I said, I phoned about 3 farmers south of Benito, 2 east, well, there wasn't too much west of Benito, and then north, and like I said, the best deal I got was they figured that, like this one woman told me, she says, she realized Benito's getting smaller, and they need help, but to the extent of paying for it all, she says no.
Anybody else?
Just in regards to that, like, once you initiate that phone call one-on-one like that, you're only presenting possibly your own point of view to them to go on. It's hard to say, because from our own discussions, you've admitted that you didn't understand a lot of what I was saying. If these people would have come to the meeting last night that have seen a different presentation, that perhaps they would have had a different viewpoint. Last night was intended for debate, and any pushback, there was none. Not one person spoke out against it. When you come to saying pay your share and whatnot, if you do look at the tax comparison, Benito is paying over and above the rural for what we receive over and above the rural. When you talk about mowing lawn, the major stuff being mowed in Benito is owned by the municipality, such as the rink. That's what needs that mower. Benito owns a Schulte mower to mow CN, SO. Nobody would bill on our behalf. We don't need to mow that.
But I was told last night that Benito has no machinery, so they don't own them anymore.
In the past, that's what we were being forced to own this stuff for, right?
So, technically speaking, Benito doesn't exist. It does own nothing.
Yeah.
Swan Valley West owns it all. Councillor Blosha had her hand
Just
up.
wait, I just lost that.
That's
Come back to you
half after the
after that.
sentence.
I'll get it back.
Like, to me, it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how this is gonna vote out, because we have rural council here, we have a councillor that lives in the village, or LUD, but represents a rural. So does he vote for the people, or does he vote for where he lives?
I would hope that he represents the entire municipality, because all of us are here to represent the
Right.
entire
Then we
municipality.
need to talk to those people in their wards, and I don't think some of
So-
us have.
So one of the questions that I posed to
Well,
Byron.
and just wait, I got my.
Remember.
Okay, go with your thought.
So the invitation to the meeting also stated everyone was welcome, yes, but it also stated that the information pertained more to Benito residents, which was a wrong statement in my opinion, but it just gave the wrong impression, like, because some of the people said, I did see that, but said it pertained to Benito, so why should I go? Well, everyone needs to go, but also it wasn't advertised very well.
So, I mean, to make a summary, I mean, what happened is that you took the services, made so that the rural will pay for the services, and the taxes are gonna go up. So, I mean, how else do you?
Well,
explain- how else-
rural taxes
Yeah,
will go up,
rural tax, but I mean, how else do
with
you
a budget
explain
of
that?
60,000, this is
Yeah.
going down.
Yeah, well, I mean, how else do you explain that? When you make a phone call, how else do you explain that?
I think you start by, there is no rule. There is Swan Valley West, and
right.
there's the LUD Benito. So if we're presenting ourselves that the rural taxes are going to go up, that's completely inaccurate. All taxes go up.
Well,
And substantially this year, we're projecting a 20% tax increase because of the waste from the previous council. As at the presentation last night, minuscule amounts of that is to do with the changes in the LUD Benito. The vast majority of the tax increase is choices made previous to this council. But there is no rule. We have at large, and if Benito wants additional services, they have to pay for them. And there's no change there. Whatever Benito wants additional that we don't provide everywhere else, they must pay for. And certainly we have the opportunity to not approve the service plan. We could tell them we're not interested in having any services. But we have to still provide what we provide to the municipality. So we have to provide snow clearing, we have to provide road maintenance, we have to provide those basic things,
okay, so if I want additional service, I have to pay for it.
just like Benito.
So the question that you should be asking these ratepayers, what I asked you at the meeting in Benito the other night was basically, why have we never heard from anybody in the municipality that they have an issue paying for asphalt by Swan River, streetlights by Swan River, streetlights in Kenville, or is it just they don't want to pay for Benitos? Why are they okay in part of the municipality but not the rest? Because we've been paying for those for years. You can see it on our line earlier.
So what you're
streetlighting side by side.
What you're doing is you're going on a technicality so that you don't have to pay for this.
We amalgamated.
But you're going on a
became one.
technicality of Durban and Kenville so that you don't have to pay for this.
No, we're trying to do it according to the municipal act, and at large should not be double dipped into Benito. It's just not how it should work.
Well, I still think Benito should have a good faith and show that they believe in their town
They don't have a town.
or
They're not a
LUD.
village. They're an unincorporated
They're-
entity, the same as Durban and Kenville.
The system has detected that if they're still connected
Okay,
to the conference,
whatever, but I
and
mean-
will attempt to disconnect them. If you wish to remain in the conference, please press *1. To dial out, please dial the area code and number that you wish to.
Meredith will watch the video for the rest.
It's too bad that thing wasn't.
Do we wish to bring this for vote tonight? Do we wish to table? What do we wish to do? I would suggest if we're tabling this because we're not comfortable with it, we don't currently have a service agreement with Benito, and we're providing services there that are not covered under an agreement. So if this is not suitable to council, it would be appropriate to stop providing those services until such time as there's an agreement. Because certainly we shouldn't be providing something to one area of the municipality we don't provide to the others.
Well, we've already accepted the 40,000 for the garbage and the utility.
We told them that's what we'll charge them, but they have to agree to pay it, and we have to agree to their service plan to charge it to them.
You know, like, everybody knows how much everything went up. I mean, there's farmers there that, well, I talked to one farmer, he had budgeted $30,000 for his fuel. And he says, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He says, I haven't started combining yet. And now you're gonna put 20% onto it. I know you say it's just a small amount comes here, but I mean, a small amount here, a small amount there, a small amount there.
And certainly at budgeting, we have to decide if 20% is where we're going.
Yeah.
We've been using that as a worst case number, so there's no surprises.
I mean, it might be 15, might be 10.
And, as a council, we could decide to not have any gravel this year. We're short 25,000 yards. We could.
We're not
there's things we can
necessarily
cut.
short, obviously, it was ordered, obviously they just didn't crush it.
Actually, the CAO told them not to crush it. So they were told not to, which is a problem.
Yes.
Obviously, which is causing us to do winter crushing now, which costs more, because they were told to not crush it until we saw the results of the election.
To me, what you're saying there too, it's, the taxes are unfortunate where they're at, they're going up, yes. But what you're saying is essentially saying that because we don't want this tax to go up more, let's continue to punish the LUD.
No, I'm not
No.
saying that. I'm saying let's sit down there. If there's, like I said, if there's grants that the previous council has been taking away from you, let's give that back to the LUD. If
Okay.
there's like,
So maybe I should explain the grants, so we're
Well-
clear on how it happened. So at previous, there was a village of Benito, that was an incorporated municipality, and there was the rural municipality of Swan River, which was also an incorporated municipality. Both municipalities received provincial support grants. They received gas tax separately. They were two completely separate things, much like we in the town of Swan River are separate. We're completely separate councils. The province of Manitoba saw fit, and certainly it was controversial at the time, to force amalgamation. Any municipality of less than 1,000 persons was forced to amalgamate with a neighbor until such time as they reached 1,000 persons. Benito was landlocked by the arm of Swan River. You can only amalgamate to municipalities that touch your borders. So because they didn't touch any other municipality, they were legally required to cease being the village of Benito and join the arm of Swan River. The two combined together, there was amalgamation meetings, there was agreements, we became the municipality of Swan Valley West. We could have at that time, Bozeman could have been a part. There was once discussions of Bozeman being part of Swan Valley West. In the end, Bozeman went with Minnetonka's Bozeman instead. But that all went on back in 2015 and became effective January 1st, 2016. At that point, the Village of Benito Council ceased to exist. The operations of Benito ended. So did the operations of the arm of Swan River. No more was there an RM of Swan River. All of that ceased to exist. All assets from both municipalities were rolled into a new municipality called the Municipality of Swan Valley West. We have only existed since January 1st, 2016. While certainly we're in the building of the arm of Swan River, it was transferred to us and we became Swan Valley West. So much like we own the assets in Benito, we also own the assets of the former RM of Swan River. Sorry, 2015, I'm being told I'm off by 1 year. So we are a new municipality. With that, we've inherited a bunch of things. We've inherited a bunch of bylaws that aren't yet amalgamated between our areas of our municipality. We have bylaws that were passed by the former village of Benito that remain in force because our council has never passed a new bylaw to supersede it. We have bylaws from the arm of Swan River that remain in force. Many of those bylaws conflict with each other. So we continually struggle with baggage from amalgamation. The province saw fit, and we exist at the will of the province of Manitoba. They create us by virtue of the Municipal Act, and they can take us away by virtue of the Municipal Act, which they did to the village of Benito. They wrote a thing, and it ceased to exist. They have determined that our correct method of taxation is assessment-based. We have absolutely no power to change that. We can only tax based on assessment or special service levies. Special service levies give us some flexibility. The town of Swan River does that for garbage collection. We have never done that yet. We certainly could. We could have a special service levy that certain areas were collected. That was proposed a year or two back. It didn't go over very well, but it was proposed and thought about, council looked at for a while. We must tax within the confines of the Municipal Act. And what is provided in the Municipal Act is an at-large amount of taxation. Any service that we provide to all of the residents must be taxed at large. Any service we do not provide to all the residents must have some reasonable way of taxing it. It can be a special service levy. It can be an LUD in the case of Benito. Kenville and Durbin obviously aren't LUDs. If we were to do garbage pickup, say for example in Kenville, there's some houses there, we would have a special service levy that would act the same as the LUD. The LUD essentially provides a shortcut to special service levies. They elect a committee of people that can agree on behalf of the entire area of Benito to have a special service levy without us holding a public hearing. Essentially, each thing they're agreeing to is a special service fee for the LUD of Benito. Because they have an elected body, the people on that committee can sign off on it and say, that's it, we're done. If we were to do this in Kenville, we would have to hold a public hearing. We would have to invite all residents of Kenville to the public hearing. We would then explain to them how much the garbage collection is going to cost. They could register objections. If a required percentage of them objected, we would then have to go to municipal board and have the conversation, and we would make decisions that way. The LUD essentially short circuits the special service levies, so the people of Benito who elected representatives for them, if they're in agreement with it, we don't have to do the rest of the steps to charge them extra. If the LUD presented a service plan for zero, absolutely nothing, and sent it in and refused to pay a single cent, which could happen, it's in the realm of possibilities, probably wouldn't be a great idea, but they could, we would still have to provide to Benito, the area we know as Benito, which is really part of Swan Valley West, the same services we provide everywhere else. We would have to make the landfills available to those people, the same as we make them available to anybody else in Swan Valley West. We would have to plow their roads, the same as we plow every road in Swan Valley West. If we chose not to plow roads, we would stop plowing roads in the entire municipality. Obviously not a great idea, but it's an all or nothing thing when we're at large. If we provide mowing of grass, we provide mowing of grass to the entire municipality, or we don't. Specific to things like the rink, we're mowing that not because it's in Benito, we're mowing it because it's our property and our own standards require it be mowed. We have a bylaw that requires we mow it. We could choose not to mow the rink and we would then be in violation of our own bylaw. But whether or not we mow the rink has nothing to do with the LUD. We own the property, it has to be mowed. Much the same if we own that museum property and it needed to be mowed and nobody else was doing it, it would fall to us to do it because it would be our property. Right now it's not. So the way it's been done in Benito all this time has not been right. Benito pays, for example, in 2022, their share of the gravel on all roads in the municipality. They pay their share of the cost of graders for all of the graders in the municipality. They pay their share of the cost of bridge repairs for everything. And I say Benito, but really I mean everyone. All of those things are included at large. Almost everything we do is taxed at large. In the past, as a transitional measure, we had a rural tax rate. We can't do that anymore. It's no longer allowed. The rural tax rate at one time captured the things that were only in the rural area. It was transitional so that at one time the cost of graders was only put onto rural taxes. It wasn't put onto taxes in Benito. That has all ended, and over the years that's been transferred in. Last year there was very little left in rural. This year there'll be nothing because we can't have rural taxation. So all of those costs Benito pays for. Where I'm going is that, we often hear, well, Benito's only 4% of the assessment base. And that's true. They are only 4% of the assessment base. But the only way we can tax at large is by assessment base. We have no ability to do anything else. Our hands are tied in that by the provincial government. We must follow the law in that anything we do at large is tax based on assessment, which will, in many cases, seem unfair to many people. Assessment-based taxation is not good for many things. For example, school taxes are assessment-based taxation. So back in the day where each family owned a small piece of land and that was it, assessment-based taxation for school taxes kind of worked out if they all had kids. If they had no children, well, they still paid school taxes. Fast forward to now, we have many people, many corporations that own 20 or 30 or more quarters of land and pay school tax on all of it, even though it might be a corporation owned by one family with a couple children. Assessment-based taxation for something like that simply doesn't make sense. We've seen a move in the province to move away from that with school taxes. There's been no move for that for municipalities. Anything we're taxing for, except in very specific circumstances, is taxed based on assessment and taxed at large. My recommendation is that We had the municipal services offices out here. They looked at specifically how Benito was going, and they indicated it was not correct, that it needed to move to what's being proposed this year, which is what's provided in the Municipal Act, that the LUD area pays for their extra services. So not all services, they pay only for what they get extra. So anything that happens in Benito that doesn't happen anywhere else, they must pay for, rightly so. Other questions or comments? Councillor Kushniryk.
Some of the other aspects to look at, when people tell you that they'd like to see us pay our share and whatnot like that, if you look at the boundaries of Benito, it's 1/4. It's just been drawn as a square line. It
You
never
gotta make up your mind whether there's boundaries or no boundaries.
He says there's no boundaries before, but he's saying there's boundaries
Yeah,
now.
I gotta
Yeah.
go by how they did it, right? So we're telling you how it was to what it should be. The LUD technically exists right there, and they've got their boundary. We know where it is. It's 1/4. So when people tell you that we're not paying our share, we didn't get to include any of that surrounding growth, which is all the higher taxation properties. They all went out to the at-large or rural areas. But now you've got a $7.5 million assessment on that quarter. So that quarter is being taxed at a 45% portion on $7.5 million. You take a rural quarter, I've recently learned, is being taxed at a 26% portion for that quarter. So yes, we are denser, and maybe it takes a little bit more mowing, and maybe it takes a little bit more of the road clearing, but we've got a much larger tax portion on that quarter to look after it. So we are paying within Benito. It's a mindset change. People don't necessarily accept change that easily, but if you look at it, it's all there on paper, and it's really pretty black and white. I've been asking councillors for 3 years, tell me what extra services, and nobody would come up with the extra services.
Well, you know what I'm afraid is, like, if you put a wedge between rural and urban, and you get some young farmers that are trying to make it with their kids, maybe this is just the push they need to say, there's a thing where I can choose what school my kid goes to, and they'll shut Benito down.
From any of the families I've
And I
talked
hope
to, I
that
can't
that
imagine it.
doesn't never ever happen, because I'm doing fundraising every Friday to keep the Benito alive, and it just seems like, why? I mean, they don't even want to keep themselves alive. To me, that's whatever, but I mean, we can do what you want.
Further discussion? Anybody else? I have to admit I clicked a button I shouldn't have, so I lost the mover and seconder. I believe it was Kushniryk and Burick, is that correct? Put that back in, but I should not have clicked the button that I clicked while we were talking about this. So I'm going to reread the resolution. Be it resolved that the 2023 service plan as provided by the LUD of Benito be approved. We have a mover and seconder. If someone wanted to ask for a recorded vote, this would be the time to be asking. Councillor Blosha has requested that. I think Councillor Zbirun wishes that as well. So the Reeve is going to attempt to figure out how we do this. This is the screen. So we'll call the question. Those in favor, please keep your hands up for a while until I say that I've got them recorded. Those in favor. I see Councillor Burick. I see Councillor Kushniryk. I see Councillor McGregor. And myself. Those opposed.
And I want to say why. I'm not opposed to everything.
No.
I just think it should have been done a little differently. You had a meeting last night, mostly for Benito. A meeting should have been held so that you can explain that. Because you guys aren't talking to your residents. And you need to start talking to them. And maybe if you explain it the way you've explained to us, it would be more understood. But right now it isn't, and that is why I'm voting the way I'm voting. Thank you.
Same. Like, you need to talk more. Like, I'm not, like I said, like Carrie said, I'm not all against everything that's here. Like, And like I pointed out too, that I would like to see Benito get its funding back, whatever it is that was taken away, that they think that, go over it and sit down with them and say, okay, this was taken away, here you got our back, or this or that. Yeah.
Does anybody else want to make final comments, seeing how some did it? If anybody else wants to, go for it, because, no? Okay, so the resolution is carried. And I practically guarantee I did the recorded vote correctly, but let's remember to look in the minutes and make sure it shows up that way, because that's the first time I've done a recorded vote on this new system. Moment, please. We have done all of 8. Concluded 8. We have already done all of 9.
Bill, can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
It's been passed. I am not going to say no more about this. This was a council decision. I will support this now to the ends of time or whatever, just to let you know that I'm not.
And this does come up every year.
Yeah.
So next year, with the LUD will again present a service plan, and certainly it may not be the same as this.
So I'm just telling you that if a ratepayer asks me about, I will support this decision because it is a council decision.
For just a second, there's no requirement that you say, I personally think this is the right idea. You're welcome to say, gee, I had some misgivings about it. This is what council chose.
Yeah.
No one here is forced to say
Yeah.
something they don't believe. As long as you're saying council decided this,
Yeah.
you're welcome
Yeah.
to add everything else after that of how you feel. Councillor Blosha.
Well, and I agree. A council decision was passed tonight, and that's what we go with. We're not out here yelling and screaming at each other. We're just voicing our opinions, and that's what we need to do. But my thing is, please start talking to your residents, because I know you're not, because they're talking to some of us. So please, just start listening, start talking to them. And that's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight, I think we saw some really
Productive conversation.
no one got upset with each
No.
other.
No.
We all expressed what we felt, and that is
That's right.
the best we could ever hope for here. I believe we're done all of 10. 11 we're done except for what we moved. So let us go then to committee reports, section number 12. We are no longer bringing a resolution here to accept the reports. It just doesn't make sense, but we're going to go around the table. So we're doing 2 things. We're doing committee reports, but there's also communications. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, this is a great time to bring them up. Anything that's appropriate for the public meeting, bring it up. If it hasn't been on the agenda, let's talk, because that's what we're all here for. Let's start this way and we'll go around. So Councillor McGregor.
I received a letter from the Benito Area Drop-In Center. It was addressed to myself and the RM Swan Valley to me as RM, as a board member for the library. Just to relay the message that our senior center in Benito would like to thank Chris at the library in Benito for including our organization in the Christmas Tree of Lights. Our members are grateful for the assistance she always provides. And to help them navigate the internet and newer technologies and whatnot. And it goes on to say we're so blessed in our community to have someone that unites the community in children's and adults program and events at the library. In regards, President the Benito Drop-In Center.
Who is on the library committee?
He actually just said it. He didn't know you said it.
So please make sure the library committee hears that as well.
Yeah. And to just,
And we'll get,
wants to look at it.
after the meeting, CAO Ellingson will have it, so we have a copy for the office too.
Okay, sure.
But if anyone wants to pass it around. Anything else?
No.
Councillor Zbirun.
Watershed was late for the meeting. Sorry, I didn't read my letter close enough. They had voting for, and Don Bobick is in charge of Loptic Creek type end of it, and That's about it. That's,
Things are well there.
yeah, seems to be, yeah. They're looking for projects. They're looking for projects, so,
We're quite fortunate to have Mr. Bobick there.
Yeah,
And also
we
have
are.
his ear here.
Yeah.
Because he certainly is aware when we have projects, he's done very well. in
they were
helping us.
having, you voted the next
The next
day.
day, we elected our board.
Yeah, and,
Well, presented.
okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm done.
Councillor Burick, you
Okay.
look like you have something important to tell us.
Oh, I don't know if we had a shared services meeting with Minnetonka's Bozeman on January 11th at 7 p.m. in the Swan Valley West Council Chambers. President Reeve Gade, Councillors Neely, Councillor Kushniryk, and myself. From the Minnetonka's Bozeman side was Byron Hardy and Stuart Walmsley. And as we discussed already, there's 3 topics we discussed. First was the boundary road agreement that was shared between us, and the second was nuisance ground, and third was a fire agreement. But we covered that already in our agenda. Second thing is Swan Lake Watershed Conservation District. We met January 18th at 6 p.m. It was sub-district, all the sub-districts were in. Election of chairs in each sub-district. Roaring River, Fable Creek is myself chair, Raymond McClary vice chair. Upper Swan River, Lobster Creek is Don Bobick chair, and Jason Delorier vice chair. Lower Swan River, Sinclair Creek is Larry Mihalchuk chair, and the vice chair is Jarrett Mosian. Woody River, Birch River is chair Arnie Peterson, and the vice chair is James Brown. Now this is the first time that the board is made up of all members that are elected from each council. Ever since I was on the watershed before, there was maybe 3 elected members were from Minnetonka's side, nobody from the Arma Mountain. Arma Mountain just had a representative there that could not vote or anything. Now he has voters privilege. So like I say, each member on that board is an elected member from each council. So we're all represented on that board. Okay, Swan Lake Watershed Conservation District regular meeting January 19th at 5:30 p.m. The new board for 2023-24 is Don Bobick is the chair, Brian Burick vice chair, Larry Mihalchuk is a member, Jason Delorier is a member, Arnie Peterson is a member, Peter Toker is a board appointee, Connie Forbes is a board appointee, and Kelly Philipchik is a provincial appointee. That's that. And do you want me to report on a public meeting yesterday?
Sure, but I don't have to.
Public meeting yesterday was January 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Benito Legion Hall. Present was Reeve Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, R.J. McGregor, Brad Kushniryk, Byron Zbirun. LUD members were Holly Kushniryk, Joyce Reedman, and CAO Pat Ellingson. Missing was Councillor Neely and Councillor Blosha. I just put down here, Reeve had an hour-and-a-half presentation. The presentation went very well. You did very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very good. We had a short question and answer period from the crowd, and I just put here that the crowd was very appreciative of to the direction the new council is going, and my feeling is the crowd is supportive of the direction the new council is taking, and they really appreciated the meeting yesterday, and a comment was made by a few that they look forward to more public meetings and keeping them informed.
Anything else?
Sure.
On behalf of council, congratulations. We're glad to see you in your positions at the watershed. Councillor Blosha.
Okay, so just so that it be known, I had a Health Foundation meeting yesterday, and that's why I wasn't in attendance at the Benito meeting. So yesterday was the first meeting as a new board, so there was lots to go over with the new members because they don't know what the Health Foundation does. So that takes a little bit of time because each along the way there's always questions. So Mayor Jacobson is the chair and I am the vice chair. So that makes it nice for us. So there was a CT scanner update, so I was so excited. I wanted to get this update back to you, and I was so excited. Well, it's not that exciting. So the MLA is working on seeing why there hasn't been a tender put out, because we know the announcement was made in the summer that we would be receiving a CT scanner. Well, I'm sorry to say that no tenders have went out yet. So the mayor, him and his council, they've been petitioning the government and Shared Health to see why it hasn't gone to tender yet. And because it was announced in the summer and we haven't seen any movement on it. So for me, I would love to see us make a resolution, send a letter to our government and to Shared Health as well, and say, please get these tenders out. Because if we don't get these tenders out for April or May, it won't be happening they won't be in progress this year. You can guarantee it. And with elections coming, so that's something I would like to see us do to support that, because we know that a major portion of our doctor recruitment money will be going towards that. That was, as long as we still all agree on that in the end. Another thing, pertaining to the doctor recruitment, we haven't, as a municipality, made our payment for 2022. That needs to be done.
Invoiced.
It had, I'm sure it had to have
Can
been.
you ask them to send it again, please?
Well, that'll be
those
something that
documents are
the
missing.
staff would have to do, but it's an agreement that keeps coming, so. Just something we need to pay. We're one of the only ones who haven't put our 2022 contribution in, and I know we will. So there's no problem.
As we heard earlier, there's some invoices that don't seem to be in the bill.
Yeah,
So
but
we'll
I'm
get
sure
another
that
copy.
it had to be, it would have been, but that
There's
was
a
something.
substantial amount of paperwork missing, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that was, so that's, if anybody ever wants to see the financial for the doctor recruitment fund, just ask me. I always have that in my bag, and the rest of the things were just general business. So I got home about 8 o'clock after Lance and I had to stay a little bit after and get caught up on some checks, because Lance and I signed checks. So kind of worked out good that the two of us were still there, because we could sign those checks. So that was it. And there would be one more thing, but the one more thing I have to bring up, and it wasn't about the Health Foundation meeting, will have to go in camera. It was a question that I need to ask, but it will have to go to camera.
Okay, so we'll do that. That's it for you, Councillor Kushniryk.
I had the shared service meeting plus the public meeting last night, which I already touched on, and an LUD committee meeting, which focused mostly on the service plan. A little bit we dabbled on recycling. Byron came out to that one as well, which was nice to have somebody different come out to an LUD meeting. So that was really nice, and that's about it.
Can I ask a question about the LUD meeting?
Yep.
We haven't seen any minutes.
We have
Lately.
gone through multiple.
I understand we've gone through,
Yeah.
but Pat was here the last one and was at that meeting, I would imagine. So I would just wonder, maybe from now on, we could at least start seeing minutes, so we could say, well, they are having meetings and here's their minutes.
Yeah.
That'd be important.
Minutes will be forthcoming, the resolutions were passed.
I'm not saying, I know they
Website.
have their
Yeah.
meetings, but
And this was-
before the minutes would come right after, so.
This was the first LUD meeting they've actually held. I think the former was an informal meeting.
We had an
No, we had a
official one
meeting.
when,
In
the first
November.
CEO,
Oh,
Sheila's here.
Sheila's here.
And that paperwork all got gone.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying, but from here forward, can we have some minutes at least? Because then we know, what you did the other day was budget. And that was my only question. It wasn't a question, really, I guess.
I guess on that note, do we, it's different. The LED will be similar to a transportation committee. Do they do minutes and stuff?
Legally, they have to.
They've got all their
The
minutes.
the history isn't always so perfect on that.
If you still
but
want an LUD, you have minutes.
The act
If you-
requires
If you
that-
went all at large and you
Yeah.
said that was it, there's no LUD, that's the way it goes.
The municipal act reads that minutes must be kept of council meetings, but then a separate section says that any committee of council must apply the municipal act with appropriate changes. So essentially it means that any council committee must have resolutions added if there's a meeting. So there must be an opening, any resolutions, a closing, those have to generate minutes, they have to come back. So the LUD, but also transportation, any committee we see that has a meeting of the committee needs to generate minutes. Committee reports for the Reeve, much of it has been covered, so I'll only add some things. I have continued to spend about 1 hour a day at my day job the last couple of weeks. They send their request to please send me back. They're asking about sending out a search team. It's been fairly intensive here, as you can imagine, with some of the changes we've gone through. And I want to assure council I'm not billing all of that. I'm putting about 6 hours a day into the municipality right now, so a couple hours gets billed some days, but only for structured meetings and such. When I'm just in the office doing stuff, I haven't been billing that, and I don't intend to. But certainly there's been an awful lot of work going into it to try and keep us on track and keep us going someplace. So I appreciate all the work the staff have done. They've had to put up with me probably more than they normally would as I wander through here every day and talk to them and visit and such. But that's going well. You know, things continue to get better in the Swan Valley West, although we obviously always have some challenges on the go, but things are going well. The meeting last night, I was so happy with. I was afraid we might only have 2 or 3 people. We set a record last night for the number of people that came out. We had 50 people in attendance. A large number of those people were not from the LUD of Benito. They were from surrounding areas in Benito. I had been a little concerned. Obviously, there was some pent-up anger. We heard some of that last night. We heard some people express some very, very strong concerns with Swan Valley West. I had been concerned that meeting might get out of hand if that sentiment took hold and we couldn't get through the presentation. But we were able to get through the presentation. Certainly we answered a lot of questions along the way. We'd hoped for questions at the end, but I wasn't going to shut anybody down last night. If it was important enough for them to ask mid-presentation, it was important enough to answer. So we did attempt to answer every single question that was asked last night. There were a few that we need clarification on that staff will be working on those answers and getting back to those people about it, but it went fairly well. Nobody threw anything at me last night. I was quite happy about that. I was clapped at a few times, but I think that was kind of a nice thing rather than having tomatoes thrown. Certainly, you know, the meeting was recorded, so the meeting's available for everyone to see. Certainly hope lots of people do watch it. Some of the things that happened in the meeting, some of the suggestions made by the crowd, obviously, I think it's important to note that they were made probably out of frustration. You know, there were some very strong feelings in that room last night about past events in Swan Valley West, and I'm not going to say that those aren't appropriate feelings. You know, everybody has their feelings and they feel how they do, but certainly it's something we all need to be mindful of, that there are some very strong feelings out there of things that have gone on. And so I can't see that any of the suggestions that were made last night about suing the former council or having the former council criminally charged is something that we're going to pursue as a council. I'm certainly not going to be bringing any of that forward. If anyone feels differently on that, I'll help you bring it forward. You're always welcome to come to me if you want to bring a resolution and need help writing it or something. I'll help you out with that. If it's something you feel strongly about, you can do it. It's not something that's going to be coming from the chair. I don't think I want to chase after any of that stuff because we need to move forward. We can't just be looking in the rearview mirror all the time. With that though, I do extend an invitation to all members of council. You're welcome to call me anytime you want, discuss anything you want. If I can't answer, I'll try to call you back, leave a voicemail or text me. Anyway, you know, I'm always here. And that extends to if you need help with anything for meetings. You know, if you want to bring something to a meeting, we'll get it on the agenda. If you want to bring a resolution, we can help you write a resolution. We're all here to be able to do those things. So if anybody ever needs help with any of that stuff, you're always welcome to come to me, come to the CAO. We'll make sure it happens. Whether I agree with the resolution or not isn't the point. I'm here to help with that. So if you have something you want to bring forward, I will help you be able to bring it forward. I did meet with the staff this morning. We had a meeting of all staff for the municipality at 10 a.m. this morning. I think it was officially a toolbox meeting. I'm not quite clear on all the vernacular, but I think it was a toolbox meeting. So it was an opportunity to bring staff together following some recent changes in staffing. We had some discussions there. Much of that will be going in camera as HR matters, but certainly the staff this morning expressed that they are happy. They are a staff that is looking forward to doing what's best for the municipality of Swan Valley West and every resident and every visitor in our municipality. They have every commitment to each doing their part to making Swan Valley West a very amazing place. It was so nice to see the staff together this morning. We had some coffee and donuts and tea and water, and we visited and we laughed and we joked and we teased each other, and it felt a lot like it used to feel here 8 years ago. That was how the RM of Swan River had always been run. And that's something that Swan Valley West hadn't seen a lot of as of late. It was a very good meeting this morning. At least those portions of it. There's a few in-camera things, but there's always going to be some issues when you have staff. So that is, I think, all I'm reporting on tonight to keep it from going into 2 or 3 hours. But if you have any questions on anything else you want to bring up, now is your time to do it. Does anybody else want to talk, ask? Councillor Zbirun?
That CT scan, is there any chance of us losing that thing? Like if
No,
we
it's
drag our
not,
feet on it?
it's not the chance of losing it. It's not, we're not gonna lose it. It's just, they're not moving it forward as fast as we would like it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, we're not gonna,
We're not on a time frame or anything that.
we're not paying for the whole thing anyway. We're
Okay.
giving the community
Okay.
and we're giving a portion.
Okay.
So I can speak to that a bit. Unfortunately, we are on somewhat of a time frame.
Yeah, we want
The
it,
provincial government is time limited.
Yeah.
yeah.
The current polling.
Yeah, that's
indicates
true.
that the
That's
provincial
why we
government
would like
change
to
is
see it
coming.
happen between
Yeah,
April
okay.
and May. So let's send a letter right away. Let's do our part.
Yeah.
I can advise when I met with some of the MLA and some other MLAs and some ministers at AMM, Shared Health has no interest in a CT scanner in Swan River. They indicated they did not wish a CT scanner to be installed at the Swan River facility. They were overruled by the provincial government and ordered to install a CT scanner. So there's some feeling in government that some of the reason it hasn't gone to tender is there's been some pushback from Shared Health as well. We didn't want it, you can't make us. The government has been very clear to them, we are the government, and yes, we can. But it's important the government follow through on that, because if it's not in construction at the time of the election, the next government could say,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
maybe we don't need it.
Yeah, and that's why I want us, like all as municipalities, to all get on board, send those letters, keep pushing.
It benefits us all.
It benefits us
Yeah,
all,
for sure.
and it benefits so many surrounding.
So that's kind of why it's kind of dragging their feet because.
Well, no, it's just everything is like that in government.
Will there be something brought up at the G4?
It will certainly be discussed there. You'll find in your agendas, there's a new item 12.1. So move to 12.1. It's entitled CT Scanner Concerns. So I'll read a resolution, we may make some changes to this, but we'll start on it.
Where do you see 12.1?
Press F5,
Refresh.
and suddenly you'll have a 12.1.
I gotta do this on this stupid one.
You don't have 12.1 here, do you?
Yeah, just a refresh is
refresh,
saying, yeah.
F5 on your keyboard will make it refresh and give you a 12.1.
On yours, maybe.
The resolution reads, whereas the 4 municipalities of the Swan River Valley have agreed to fund the CT scanner project for the Swan River Health facilities, and whereas the Manitoba government committed to installing a CT scanner as requested by the community, but has not yet issued a tender or began the process of constructing this much-needed service, therefore be it resolved that the Council of Swan Valley West petition and encourage the provincial government and Shared Health to move forward immediately on the CT scanner project.
Thank you,
Councillor Blosha may wish to move that.
thank you.
Is there someone who would like to second that? Councillor McGregor, would we like any changes to that text, or is that all right? as
No, I
is?
think it sounds
I
great,
bet.
thank you.
So what we'll do is we'll send a certified copy of that resolution and a letter,
So you'll send it to Shared Health
and the
and
government.
like the Minister
Yes.
of
And we'll
Health,
also
yeah.
give it to Mayor Jacobson.
Yeah, and
and he
also send
can-
it to our local MLA, please, like 4 places, I want you to send it.
We will make that happen.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that wishes a recorded vote on that, or is it okay to just do Carrie? Because we could show it as everyone voting yes if you wanted to.
Might be.
or-
Whatever should give it more power.
Yeah,
let's
it
do
might be
that
good
way.
to have a recorded vote and everybody
Yeah,
supports it.
that's
okay.
fine.
So let's then move to recorded vote. Those in favor? Okay, so you can put your hands down, I'll spend a little bit of time marking here.
Trying to make it tight, Margot.
You're doing a good job with
Well, he knows
Turn it
what
on
he's
so we can
Not
vote,
worried about
that.
that.
It is.
because then it would put our name, I think, by the vote, whereas the last one only showed 4-2.
It will, in the minutes, I believe, put the names.
Oh, okay.
At some point, your names will show up in recorded votes. It just may not show it immediately, but when we make those minutes, it's gonna show how each councillor voted. So that's carried, obviously, and I have recorded that vote. Now, we have bounced around a lot tonight, but I believe we have now accomplished all of our public agenda. Does anyone disagree with that? Given that, if it would please the council, we will take a short recess. We'll call it 10 minutes, but once everybody's back in chambers, we'll continue with the in-camera session. Just for interest's sake tonight, the in-camera session is unfortunately rather long. So we'll take it in order as we go, but we're gonna try and keep the curfew at least, so we may not accomplish it all. But we'll come out of in-camera and vote on a couple of resolutions after that. And then if we have to reconvene, we may have to come back for a special meeting to tackle some of it.
And what about 4-1 there?
4-1 is, Mr. Bobick, he's scheduled for 9:30.
So he is coming?
He is coming
Okay.
tonight. They're finishing the committee of the whole meeting. Probably all of his thing is appropriate for in-camera tonight.
Okay, no,
So
I was
they'll
just wondering
join us
because like,
in-camera.
here we're going to camera and then right away it's
Then
9:30.
we're coming out.
No, he's going to speak to us in camera tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, we are in recess. We'll see you back here shortly. We're moving to 13.1, the in-camera section. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, investigations, and enforcement of an act or bylaw, and security of armed documents or property. We get the whole realm of it tonight. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Burick is the mover, a seconder, please. Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Those in favor? That is carried. Turning from the in-camera portion of the meeting, let's move to 13.3.1. Resolution. Be resolved that both animal control officers for the Municipality of Swan Valley West be paid the same hourly rate of $18. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Zbirun, and a seconder, please. Moved by, or seconded by Councillor McGregor. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We will go back to a portion of the agenda that we moved to in camera. That is section
13.1.3.1.
no, it should be the winter wear.
It's 11-4.
11-4, yeah.
Section 11.4, winter clothing. So we have received quotes for winter clothing from two places for the employees. I believe 734 Inc. was the lower of the two quotes. So is it the wish of council we go ahead with that purchase? 734 Inc. also provides us the opportunity to include the Municipality of Swan Valley West name on the clothing if we wish to. I can bring a resolution, we can have some discussion if that's something we want to do, or where would you like to go with this item? Don't all
Is
speak
it
at
a
once.
leap of good faith on our part to do this?
It certainly appears that under the current union agreement, it is not entirely clear. The feeling is that the practice has been that every 2 years we provide winter clothing to the staff. Right now it's 2.
And will this include the landfill?
The 5 that are on the list for this year are 3 grader operators, Mr. Whiteque and Mr. Howchuk.
Okay, it would just be good to check into Lyle's to make sure that he has, because I honestly don't believe that I didn't see.
Have we ever done pants in the past? Or just do
Spends more
jackets?
time outside than any of the rest of them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it would be, if
And
we're,
so if
we're doing it,
Daniel is temporarily working in Benito and we're supplying him, are we also supplying Chad, Kushniryk? Like, are you
those are
talking
not union, you said those were contract employees.
Chad is not union, he
That's
is
right.
casual.
Okay.
Daniel is,
Seasonal.
so he is union if he's seasonal. So he is union.
Well, you just, something to think about.
So what was indicated by Mr. Whiteque when he spoke on this was that we needed 5. So that seems to be the answer. If that.
But I think we need to give Lyle.
I just wanna make sure that Lyle at the landfill is looked
Yeah.
after.
Yeah, 5 does not include Lyle.
That's
So
right.
that's what I mean.
So 6.
I think so. If we're gonna do
Please.
this 6, yeah, because
A resolution be resolved that council approve the purchase of 6 sets of winter gear for the staff as contemplated under the union contract. Is there a mover?
What about, I saw in the one quote, they're talking about names and stuff, names and positions. Not doing that?
I would think we would put Swan Valley West on it. But we
Just
wouldn't
put Swan
anything
Valley
Yeah.
West on them. That's
Okay.
good enough.
else. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, seconder, please. Councillor Kushniryk. So the understanding of staff is we're going to ask that this equipment have the Municipality of Swan Valley West name on it, but we won't be putting individual employee names on it. Any further discussion on the resolution?
Did councillors have vests at one time? We had vests at one time, that if we were on a job site, you had to wear one. Eh?
Do you feel cold right now?
No, I don't mean for insulation, just for marking.
It's all
Just for marking. I'm pretty sure they gave us vests.
I have a vest, but I brought it myself. I also got myself a nice white hard hat, so I would look important on the job site. So I felt the need to wear white when I appear at a job site. That's just me.
But isn't that right though, that we should have something like,
And as a director to council, if work is being performed at the municipality, if you're entering an area that requires PPE,
Right.
as councillors, we must comply with that too. You must
Exactly.
be wearing at minimum high visibility. For most areas, a hard hat's required, but not all. And obviously, CSA footwear is always required. So if you're attending, if a culvert is being done, anything like that, if you're attending a site like that, you must wear PPE, or you should expect our employees will throw you off the site, and they'll have the support of council for doing it.
We'll show them later.
Any further discussion? Glad you're both paying attention.
We were. We were, when you see the picture,
okay, so
you'll
again,
know.
Bill, so what do we do again? Let's get that straight now. When we go to a site, if we're called on a site,
If we're called to a site, you must be wearing a high-vis vest,
okay, I understand the vest,
CSA
but
boots,
boots?
yes, hard steel-toe
Oh,
boots,
see, I don't have steel boots, so.
then don't go to a site until you have some.
Seriously?
Seriously. If it's a workplace safety requirement.
I know, I
So
know.
if we show up at a job site to see what our staff are doing and we don't have the PPE on, if they throw us off the site, they're doing the job. If they don't throw us off the site, they answer to the safety committee for why they didn't. Because we can't be there breaking the safety
I
rules.
know, yeah.
That
You're a farmer,
includes
you
going
don't
to their
have
shop too, and to our shop too,
Yes,
eh?
Yes, there it does. Now, there's some leeway in that. If it happens to be coffee break time, when we attend a shop, no PPE is required during coffee break.
Okay.
So if everybody's stopped work and we're having a meeting, we're having coffee with them, it's fine. But if work's being performed on a grader and you walk into a shop, you need your PPE on.
I think the blowback is part of it too, right? So now staff guy number 2 doesn't wear his boots and you say, why aren't your boots on? And he says, well, because Brian came out and he didn't have boots.
Yeah.
You know, it's just,
Any further discussion on the actual resolution about success of winter gear? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Does anybody else have business for council tonight? 14, notice of motion. I don't believe we have any of that. So we'll move to number 15 on the agenda, the adjournment. Be it resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn at 11 p.m. Be it further resolved the next meeting is Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Is there a mover? Anybody at all willing to move the resolution? Anybody willing to? Oh, Councillor Blosha, thank you for agreeing to move the resolution.
We're not,
Second there.
hey,
Give him the picture.
we're not postponing the day before or after, or?
He's mad at us now.
Councillor Zbirun, any discussion on the resolution?
Might have to be absent from that meeting.
Hearing none, those in favor?
You both.
That's it. Hey, you gotta,
Thank you all for a good meeting.